Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. I'm really excited to sit down and film because I actually had a couple of other videos on my list today, but I just woke up and I really wanted to talk to you guys about my favorite products from the month of September. September flew by so quickly, but I had so much fun with makeup during the month of September. I was like in a full fall mode, which I didn't think I would be because I really did enjoy the summer, but I went through my collection and just kind of pulled out all of my previous fall essentials, and then I did test out some new products that I just think are really great. So I'm excited to share all of them with you guys. I feel like I'm kind of getting back into colorful makeup, like bold lips and bold eyeshadow, because during the summertime I kind of took a break. I did a lot of very simple makeup looks, 10-minute makeup looks, which is fun as well. It's nice to switch it up. Let me know in the comment section below what you've been loving because I would love to hear from you. And I think I will kick it off with eyeshadow palettes. I have two favorites. I have tested out a few palettes during the month of September. I did a review on the ColourPop Kathleen Light So Jaded palette, so I'll link that below. And then I have been testing out the Urban Decay Naked Honey, which I have back there on my vanity. But there are two other palettes that I've really been loving. The first one is somewhat similar. This one is the ColourPop Honey palette. I just think that this is such an interesting palette. I don't really have anything like this in my collection, and I know yellow is kind of trendy right now, but yellow eyeshadow is not something that I ever reached for until I got this palette. I like this palette because it does have a lot of true yellow shadows, but it also has a couple of neutrals that have like yellow undertones. So it's really nice because you can use it on its own, but you can also pair it with some of your staple neutral brown shadows, and you can create some really, really pretty looks. I think that this palette does make yellow very wearable. I know the Naked Honey is appealing to a lot of people because it is very neutral, but it has like some pops of like golden yellow tones. But if you don't want to spend that much money, if you already have go-to neutrals and you just want to add a few yellow shades, for $12, you will not be disappointed. The only thing is that it does have one pressed glitter, which I have not used because I don't prefer to use the pressed glitters on my eyes. But other than that, the rest of the shades are great. I've tried the rest of them. The other palette that I have just been loving is this one from Anastasia. This was my palette purchase for the month of August. This one is the Anastasia Jackie Aina eyeshadow palette. And this is what I'm wearing on my eyes today. I did a little bit more of a pink, purpley look. I think I added some gold, which I wasn't planning on doing, but I do like how it turned out. I'm so impressed by the quality of this palette. I think Anastasia's formula does tend to be one of my favorites, but I do feel like this palette for some reason is like a step above the other Anastasia palettes that come in this packaging. Like the matte shadows are not as powdery and the metallic shadows are just really intense. Like sometimes when I do more colorful eyeshadow looks like what I'm wearing today, it takes me forever to blend them out and I have to set aside a good amount of time, so I don't always want to take the time to do it. But the shadows in here, as intense and rich and pigmented as they are so incredibly blendable that you can do a really colorful eyeshadow look fairly quickly, which is really, really nice. So I feel like this, I mean, there is definitely some hype surrounding it, but I do feel like it maybe got a little bit lost in the shuffle because Anastasia has been releasing like palette after palette. So if this is one that you were considering, I definitely think it's worth the money. I think the shadows are gorgeous and there's so much you can do, whether you want to do something really colorful, like what I'm wearing today, but I also did a very like staple neutral fall look using it, and I did film it, so I'll link that video below. But honestly, this is one of the best quality palettes that I've tried in 2019. So I do have quite a few complexion products to share with you. I mentioned this concealer in my favorites video last month, but I have to mention it again because it has been a consistent product in my everyday makeup routine. This one is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Correcting Concealer. I wear the shade 30NN, which might be slightly too light. I haven't really looked into getting a darker shade because I feel like it works fine for me, but I am so impressed by this concealer. I did not think that I was going to like it the first time that I used it, and it's quickly become my go-to concealer. And honestly, I haven't had a concealer that I've reached for consistently since trying the Too Faced Born This Way last summer. So I feel like it takes a lot to become one of my staple concealers. I don't struggle with super dark under eye circles, but I do tend to get really oily, like right on the sides of my nose. So having a more full coverage matte concealer definitely helps my skin from getting too oily too quickly. And because I have been going in with more of a medium coverage foundation, spot concealing has been like my best friend because I'll just go through and kind of spot conceal any areas that need a little extra coverage. And this has been the the perfect concealer. It stays in place so well. It is blendable, not as blendable as maybe the Too Faced Born This Way, but it does blend out, and the thing that I love is that it will last all day long. So as far as foundations go, there are 3 that I've really been reaching for during the month of September. The first one is the Catrice HD foundation. I didn't really want to mention that in today's video because I talk about it all the time. I think I did mention that last month as well. That's kind of been my go-to for a few years at this point. When I'm not wearing that one, I'm usually wearing one of these Makeup Revolution foundations. So the first one is their older foundation, the Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation. I recently got a new shade. I have F8.5, and I've been having such a hard time finding my go-to foundation shade in this line because I love the formula so much. I have for a while, but I consistently purchase the wrong shade. I finally found one that works well for me. It is a little bit too light. I'll swatch it for you guys. So if you have a similar skin tone to me, you might want to go a little bit darker. Honestly, I tend to go a little bit lighter with my foundations because my neck is pretty light, and then I use bronzer, I use blush, so in the end, it usually looks fine. Anyways, all of that to say, this is one of my favorites. It's very blendable and smooth. I feel like it actually looks like skin, and it's very lightweight and comfortable. It provides really nice coverage, but I wouldn't say it's intensely full coverage. It definitely evens out my skin tone and covers up redness, acne scarring, but at the same time, it just looks very natural and smooth on the skin. So that's why I've really been loving this one. I have used this in the past and I've enjoyed it before, but now that I have a shade that works a little bit better for me, I've really been reaching for it a lot. But I've also been testing out the new Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Radiance Foundation. I was so excited about this. I think I talked about it in a purchase or pass video, and they did send this to me in the mail as PR. Just so you guys know, I'm always honest either way, and I was planning on purchasing it myself. In fact, I do need to purchase a different shade because this shade is just way off for me. And it's so funny because when I was applying it indoors, like when I apply my makeup in here, I just stand over by a window. It looked fine. Like it did look a little bit off, but nothing too crazy. And then we were actually at the apple orchard and my husband took a picture of me and it looked so off. Like it just looked very, very weird. I think it's really yellow toned, but the actual formula is amazing. Like this is what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a hydrating foundation. It works really well on my oily skin, but I think if you have dry or normal skin, you're going to love it even more. It's a very blendable, smooth, creamy formula. And what's different about this one compared to other hydrating foundations is that it doesn't feel super sticky. It doesn't feel overly hydrating. It just has the perfect texture. And if you don't have to set your foundation, it's going to be amazing because it's so naturally dewy looking. Even if you do have to set your foundation like me, because otherwise it just will not last. It looks so pretty and natural on the skin and I just love it. I think it's going to be even more of a staple for me heading into the fall and the winter seasons. It's been really hot during the month of September. We have had some fall days, but overall it's been pretty warm and it's actually held up really well during the warm weather. So I'm curious to see how it works once the weather changes and then, you know, it's just cold and my skin isn't as oily. So I do have a foundation fail, and I honestly did not think that this was going to be a fail for me. I swatched it in my initial haul video, and then I also swatched it in my everyday makeup drawer video, but I actually wore it during the month of September, and it did not wear well on me at all. First of all, I don't like how this foundation applies. It is a hydrating foundation, but I have tried my fair share of hydrating foundations that I love, including the one from Makeup Revolution. This is more of like a heavier cream foundation. It has a little bit of like stickiness or tackiness to it because it does not blend out seamlessly. And I think that's the big advantage of hydrating foundations. Typically they blend out really without any effort. I felt like this took me a long time to apply and get a nice even application, and I had to use quite a bit of product. So you can build it up to give you pretty good coverage, but it doesn't sit well on the skin, at least for me. It definitely enhanced texture and pores, and overall, like I didn't think I was having a bad skin day, and then after I applied this, I just don't think my skin looked very good at all. It also did not wear well on me. Like after maybe 3 or 4 hours, I looked in the mirror and I was shocked by how bad my makeup looked. It had settled in everywhere and it looked like I had so many wrinkles. It looked like I had so much texture, and I do have wrinkles and texture. I mean, my skin is skin, but there's a difference between foundations that, you know, wear well and foundations that enhance that. And I feel like this didn't even just enhance my texture and wrinkles, it made it look like I had way worse skin than I actually do. I can't really see myself recommending this, but you know, I have oily skin. If you guys have dry skin or normal skin, maybe it will wear better on you, but I just was not a big fan of this foundation at all. So I was at Rite Aid the other day, just kind of looking at drugstore products. I did pick up a few things, but I actually grabbed this e.l.f. sponge. I need to wash mine. I just used it today, which is why it looks like this, but I love this. It's such a great option. I think it's like $5 from the drugstore. And what's so crazy to me is that, remember when like the Beauty Blender was like the only sponge and everybody was raving about it? And I know a lot of people still love their Beauty Blender, but now there are so many more affordable sponge options, and I feel like this one performs really well. I like the Real Technique sponge the best, but I feel like this one feels very, very similar. I don't know how it compares in terms of price. This one is $5. I feel like Makeup Revolution has to be similar. This one is a little bit softer, so if you want something even softer than the Makeup Revolution, what am I saying? Was I saying Makeup Revolution the entire time? I meant Real Techniques. The Real Technique sponge is my go-to, but if you want even more of like an affordable option, this one is nice. I like using a sponge for powder application. I know a lot of people use sponges for foundation, for concealer. I like to use a damp sponge with powder to give me even more of like a flawless, smooth look. So I find that this one is perfect and it's only $5. So I do recommend checking it out if you need a new beauty sponge. So I've been testing out this healthy powder from Physicians Formula, and I have to tell you guys, I'm really impressed by this. I have the shade LN4, and this is a very nice powder. It feels like a high-end powder. It reminds me a lot of my Flower Beauty Light Illusion powder, or even the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder. But it reminds me of that type of powder. It has a little bit of coverage to it, but overall it's a very smooth, lightweight powder. So if you're not into translucent powders like the Essence powder, or if you're not into loose setting powders, you might like this one. I probably wouldn't use it as like a powder foundation because I don't think it gives that much coverage, but if you're somebody who likes to apply liquid foundation and then have like a powder with a little bit of coverage on top, then this is going to be perfect for you. It's also nice for touching up throughout the day, and it's so nice because it just refreshes your makeup. It mattifies your skin, but it doesn't look heavy or cakey. When you add powder on top of already existing makeup, sometimes it just looks a little bit heavy, a little bit unnatural, but this is a very natural, smooth looking powder. So I'm impressed by the quality of it. So I did purchase the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Diffused Light. I had a mini version of this in my Ambient Lighting Volume 4 palette that I bought last year, but I actually hit pan on it because I was using it so much, and I do not regret buying this powder. So I usually go like under my eyes, between my brows, along my nose and my chin, and it just makes everything look extremely smooth and blurred, but in a very natural way. This is the most lightweight powder in the entire world, so it's not a setting powder for me because I do prefer to set my foundation into place with more of a matte powder that's going to lock everything into place. But this just kind of like adds that brightness back to the skin because a lot of the matte powders that I use can make my skin look a little bit dull, a little bit like overly matte. So I'm just impressed by the quality of this powder. I felt like Hourglass powders were overhyped, and I think you just have to find the right one for your skin tone and your preferences. I cannot stop talking about the ColourPop Just a Tint lip crayons. I love these so much, and this is a product that completely surprised me because I have not been into lip crayons or products that are similar to that in such a long time. I actually decluttered every single lip crayon from my collection. They were so big years ago, like when the Revlon Just Bitten Kissable Balm Stains came out, everybody loved them. And I'm sure people still do, but I feel like it's a product that I wasn't really into for the past few years. I went through like a liquid lipstick phase, and now I love cream lipsticks and lip glosses. When I leave the house and I'm going anywhere, I always wear a lip gloss or bring a lip gloss with me. I do feel like sometimes I want more color. These are perfect for those days because they do give you a hint of color, but they're very lightweight. They're so comfortable. They're even more comfortable than lip gloss. gloss, because even when I find a lip gloss that's not sticky, it does feel like you still have something on your lips. These don't feel like you're wearing anything. They feel like you really do just have like a tinted lip balm on. So they're the most comfortable option, which is great, and they do give you that really pretty hint of color. They're hydrating and smooth. They look really nice on the lips, and they do wear off. They're not like long-lasting, transfer resistant lip products. You're going to want to reach for like a liquid lipstick for that. These will wear off, and if you like touch your lips or you're eating and drinking, you will have to reapply them, but they're just easy to work with. And if you're somebody who's looking for like a really comfortable, lightweight, smooth product that you can just throw on and, you know, touch up as needed throughout the day, these are nice, and they do have so many pretty colors. So I'll swatch my favorites for you guys, but I just can't get enough of them. I think they're so great. They're one of the best lip products that ColourPop's released in a while. Okay, so I have two more products to talk about. They are both from Catrice, and they are both primers, but one is a favorite and one is a fail. I've been testing out some Catrice products because I'm planning on doing a best of Catrice. I've been going through my favorite drugstore brands and sharing my favorite products from each brand, and Catrice is next. But I have to tell you guys, the light correcting serum primer was a little bit of a fail for me. This one is in the shade Sunlight. I think this looks really pretty on the skin initially. It does give you a little bit of like a bronzed, glowy appearance. This is not a product that I would typically use, but I did want to test it out in case I could recommend it to those of you that like products like this. So it does look very pretty on the skin, and if you were to wear this product on its own, I think you would be happy with how it looks because it does give you like a slight bronzy appearance. But if you were to go in with any complexion product on top, like foundation, concealer, it's going to completely cover up that glow. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It would be fine if the actual serum primer primed your skin, but I don't find that it does anything for my skin. It doesn't make it smooth or moisturized or mattified. Like, it doesn't really have like any priming properties to it other than the fact that it gives your skin like that sun-kissed glow. It didn't work well for me, but if you guys have tried it and you like it, you'll have to share your thoughts, but I just wanted to kind of share it because I have been testing it out. But there is a Catrice primer that I've been loving. This one is the Prime and Fine Pore Refining Anti-Shine Base. So I've been raving about their primer that comes in the blue bottle, their hydrating primer. I typically love hydrating primers, and I tend to avoid mattifying primers, which is why it took me a while to actually test this one out. And I wish that I tested it out sooner because this has me changing my mind. In my experience, mattifying primers tend to enhance dryness. They make the skin look very dull. And when I apply foundation on top, it tends to kind of like skip across the skin. I just prefer more of a smooth, moisturized base. But this primer is a little bit different because it doesn't feel super matte when you apply it. It's very lightweight, and it definitely makes my skin look smooth. So I've been struggling with a lot of like large, obvious pores around like the center of my face. And I feel like when I use this primer, it makes that area look very smooth, but it also keeps my skin very matte, which has been really, really nice. I was so surprised the first time that I used this because I went in with my makeup like how I normally would, and when I like checked my makeup halfway throughout the day, my skin did not look anywhere near as oily as it normally does. And I was like, well, maybe it's because it's almost fall, it's not as warm outside, but it was like an 80-degree day, which is still pretty warm. And usually my skin is just pretty oily throughout the day. That's just how it is. But I will say that this kept me looking very, very matte. Okay, guys, those are all of the products that I really wanted to talk about in today's video. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I would love to hear from you, so let me know in the comment section below which products you've been loving, or you can send me a picture on Instagram. I would love to check them out, but I'll see you guys very soon with a new video. Bye.